The Pats' best bet is to stand pat at number 3 in the NFL draft. And we got the expert opinion to prove it. Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful, and thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Don't forget, Locked On Patriots is not only a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but we're also free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So smash that subscribe button and download and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you get your podcasts to ensure that you get the latest episode as soon as it's available. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country, so reach out to me and let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. And while you're out there showing some social media love to Locked On Patriots, please follow our account on X as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, we have an exciting episode on tap here for you today. All of you everydayers are going to love this. And for those of you joining us for the first time, a tip of the cap and welcome. And boy, did you pick a good time to join the party, because I'm about to be joined by the expert professional draft analysis of my good friend and colleague right here on Locked On. He's the co-host of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, as well as being a senior analyst for the Draft Network. That's right, full-time Dame is in the house. Damian Parson going to pop in here in just a moment. And of course, folks, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Patriots fans, the time for the talk is just about over. The NFL draft is just hours away, and your New England Patriots, well, they're about to either select a future franchise quarterback or take a serious offer via trade to maximize their capital. But who is the right fit for the Pats in 2024 and beyond? Well, fortunately for us today, folks, we have the man with the answers. My guest today is one of the top draft analysts in the gridiron universe, a senior draft analyst at the Draft Network, and, of course, the host of a Locked On NFL Draft podcast alongside the great Keith Sanchez. It is my honor to welcome my friend and colleague, Damian Parson, to Locked On Patriots. Welcome to the pod, Dame.
Hey, thank you, Mike. I'm glad to be here, man.
Absolutely. And we've been waiting a while to get you on. One of the best minds in the business of what he does, folks. And yeah, we're going to get right into it. We're not going to waste any time because, Dame, you know the Patriots have a clear need at the quarterback position. Mac Jones no longer walking through the door, much to the delight of most Patriots fans. And most will give you the consensus that neither Nathan Rourke or Bailey Zappi are going to be the long-term solution. Some enthusiasm, I would say, about Jacoby Brissett being back in the building, but clearly the Patriots need a long-term player at that role. And Elliott Wolf said they're excited to take any one of 6 quarterbacks. So Elliott's clearly leaving his options open. There's no question about it. But the media consensus, and this includes myself, believe that UNC's Drake Maye is most likely going to be the guy. Damien, we see the arm strength. We see the prototypical build, the athleticism. But the more I've watched Drake, I'm becoming more and more impressed with his ability to attack different coverages, anticipate pressure, and, for lack of a better term, something that I think would speak well of him here in New England, elevate a supporting cast of, how shall we say, good but not great wide receivers around him. But to be totally honest with you, I think Patriots fans have seen enough of what Drake did at North Carolina. They want to know what he's going to look like at the pro level. And there's no better in the business to talk about that than you, my friend. In your opinion, what should Patriots fans expect from Drake Maye as an NFL quarterback?
I mean, you expect a guy that's going to come in and work his butt off. He has every tool that you look for physically, right? You talked about the mobility, being over 6'3", being a mobile guy who can create with his legs, not just running the ball, but also getting out of the pocket, create second reaction throws and windows, creating scramble drills, breaking contain. If you're playing man-to-man coverage or if you're playing zone and your rush is getting out of their lanes, you got to be disciplined with him because he is prone to get out and be able to make throws on the run. the arm talent is outstanding. Phenomenal arm. Guy that can fit it into a variety of windows. And what I really love about him is that he's not afraid. He's got a gunslinger mentality to him. I remember we did a video at the Combine over at the Draft Network. And in the video, it's on the YouTube channel. I said, I just want him. I want him to get to a situation where he doesn't have to step into the phone booth every single game. And what I meant by that, I don't need you to be Superman. Sometimes just be Clark Kent. Just take the briefcase, put the glasses and the suit on, punch in, punch out, and go to work. I don't always need you to carry and put the world on your shoulders. And I think putting him in New England, this is why I think New England is a perfect fit for him. With AVP as the new OC, one thing that I remember, him talking about was footwork and him being a stickler about footwork. And that's the place where Drake Maye needs kind of the coaching up, is that his upper body and lower body isn't always in sync. It's not always synchronized because he's such a powerful arm thrower. He'll throw from variety of bases. He'll kind of overstep, not always being, shout out to JT O'Sullivan. QB school, he used the term dovetail, being lined up to your target to throw. So you kind of see sometimes he sprays the ball where it's kind of high, it's too low, and it's because his base, his lower body, upper body isn't fully connected. But you get that, you see the throws when it's all lined up. He's accurate. He anticipates windows well. He puts it on the face of his receivers, and you see that ability to attack all three levels. And I think this is a young man that extends your playbook, right? Like you can run some read option stuff with him. Is he Lamar Jackson? Is he Kyler Murray? Is he Jayden Daniels in terms of 4-3 athletes? No, but we see what we see in your division with Josh Allen being a big, tall, good athlete, being able to make plays with his legs. Is he going to power run like Josh? No, two different bodies types. But I think Drake Maye has all the ability to develop into a top 5 to 7 quarterback in the NFL, a franchise guy. As you said, and this is something that I talk about on the pod. Last year, we saw Bryce go number 1, and people said, well, Bryce is better than A-Rich. He's more pro-ready than A-Rich, stuff like that. And it's like, well, A-Rich was playing in a very porous situation, but he put the team on his back. That's the same thing I look at with Drake Maye. I love to see a quarterback be in not ideal situations, because that kind of gives me a clearer picture of what I'm seeing, rather than you being in a perfect situation. Offensive line's good, you're rarely pressured, your receivers are always open. Then you get to the league, and typically if you're going top 3, you're not always going to the greatest team. You're going to a team that's drafting top 3 for a reason. So seeing Drake Maye over the last 2 years, his best receiver was Josh Downs, who was second, third round pick last year to the Indianapolis Colts, one of my favorite receivers in that class. But that was his best target, his best option. O-line wasn't great. I think you put him and put him in this New England Patriots offense with Alex Van Pelt. You don't feel compelled to start him right away. Jacoby Brissett can come in and win games for you. Also, allow him to kind of just hold the clipboard, learn from a veteran, a wily veteran who's going to come in and treat this young man the way you need him to be treated as a vet, and take him under his wing and say, listen, this is what I saw in this play. When they're going over the Microsoft Surface tablet, he's showing Drake Maye, this is what I'm seeing. This is why I made that decision. Even though the call was to go here, me being in the league 7, 8 to 10 years, I've sat behind Tom Brady and I watched him do the exact same thing. Pivot off that read and go to the other guy. And that's where I think you feel really good. And Patriot fans should absolutely feel good about drafting a prospect like Drake Maye, because he's got top tier type of talent. Now it's just all about getting the mechanical stuff just honed in. And if you do that, you're going to have yourself a franchise quarterback.
So well said. And I think one of the things that Patriots fans are most excited about, Dame, is the fact that Drake is capable, with the touch that he puts on the football as well as the power that he puts into his throws, to make those throws in any location and only where the receiver can get it. It's been a while since the Patriots have had a quarterback here like that wore number 12 up here for a number of years. And last I checked, he had a pretty good career in the NFL. Living up to those expectations, I think Patriots fans have been smart enough to temper those a little bit and not expect him to come in and be TB12 from the moment he takes the ball. But for all of the reasons that you stated, I think he is a great fit. But sometimes it's also worked against him in some certain circles up here in the New England media, because a lot of people are looking at this team and saying the offensive line needs a lot of help. He doesn't have competent pass catchers around him. This team still lacks a dedicated X receiver that can take two, maybe even three guys on one and beat them consistently down the field. People look at the team the way it's constituted right now and they say, well, Drake Maye needs a lot of work himself. Maybe he's not the best plug and play guy. I think that's one of the reasons why someone like Michigan's J.J. McCarthy has elevated up the boards here and maybe gained a little bit of traction. You guys at the Draft Network, particularly yourself and Keith, have scouted these guys so well. Do you think that's one of the reasons that JJ is now gaining some traction up here in New England because of that championship pedigree? And will that be a legitimate threat to Drake being chosen on Thursday night?
I do think the championship pedigree plays a great part, right? And I think a lot we see it all the time, right? We see like the phrase winners, like, you know, we love to draft winners. I tend to push back on that because winning is so subjective at the college football level, because it's all about what team you're on, right? Like you telling me Anthony Richardson from last year, you put him on last year's Michigan team, they don't lose to TCU. I promise you they don't, right? Like he had enough exposure and throwing the football and taking over, you know, be able to take over games. Now you give him a competent run game, offensive line, receivers, and that elite defense. I don't think they lose that game, right? And I think that's the big thing, is that it's all about where you are. And while J.J. McCarthy does have that championship pedigree, and I gave J.J. McCarthy a high second-round grade, I gave Drake Maye a high first-round grade, because at the end of the day, for me, I've seen more from Drake than I've seen from JJ, right? We talk about why didn't JJ throw the ball? Yeah, they didn't have 5-star receiver talent, but neither did Drake Maye. Like, you know what I mean? Like he had, like I said, Josh Downs this year, because of the NCAA and their finickiness, like them being finicky with the rules, finally let 6 games in, let Tez Walker come back to the team and play, but he missed like 5 to 6 games without his number one target. So for me, I look at Drake, man, I said, I've seen what you look like when things aren't great around you, and you were still impressive. They still trusted you. You had to be Superman. I think I tweeted that out sometime during this draft cycle, maybe a couple months ago at the beginning of it. What I like JJ McCarthy, at the end of the day, he was Clark Kent more than he was Superman. I watched Drake Maye be Superman game in and game out, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. And that's why I think if you get him into a system where it's game to game, it's all dependent on what we're dealing with. Hey, if it's third quarter and we need you to throw the ball, I trust Drake Maye to throw the ball. Right now, there's questions about, well, if you go up 21 on the J.J. McCarthy-led offense, can he throw the ball? True drop back sets. And this is something that you even look at the reason why Kyle Shanahan and the Niners have had such a bad record when they've entered the fourth quarter trailing by 7 or more points. The reason why they typically lose, because they rarely have true drop back sets. J.J. McCarthy did not have a lot of drop back sets. Drake Maye had a ton of drop back sets at North Carolina. So I understand the appeal of, hey, he's a winner. Hey, he's intelligent. And all the different phrases we will use to speak to characteristics. But one thing I typically like to remember is if someone's leading with characteristics and not skill, that's typically a red flag on the evaluation. Because I want to know what he is as a player first. I'll get to the character next. But talent gets you drafted. Character keeps you in the league. So for me, it's like, all right, Drake Maye, what did I see from your tape? Yes, was he inconsistent because of some mechanical flaws? 100%. Was everything put on his shoulders that led to him being, more exposed to the inconsistencies? 100%. It would have looked a lot different if he could, don't get me wrong, they had a good run game, but their defense wasn't good at North Carolina. It just was not a good team. Right. So it's like North Carolina was North Carolina because of one man, truthfully, and that's Drake Maye.
And it kind of harkens back to what I said yesterday here on Locked On Patriots with my guest, Steve Balestrieri, in the present versus potential principle that you're looking at with these quarterbacks. Even if you're grading them similarly or even when it comes to present, in terms of being out of the box, ready to start game one, if you look at J.J. McCarthy and the characteristics that he brings to the table and say, well, that may give him the edge to start game one over Drake Maye, you look at the potential, and that's where the scales really tip in Drake's favor. So I agree with you. I've been on the Drake Maye train now for about a month here on Locked On Patriots. Believe it or not, I started off saying the Patriots needed to go left tackle. Don't worry about quarterback in the first round. But then when you started to see with an objective eye a lot of what we saw last year, you realize that a lot of the Patriots' problems were quarterback related. And it's a deep class when it comes to the offensive tackles and even the wide receivers. Damien and I are going to talk about that in just a moment. But don't worry, folks. We're not going to forget the other quarterbacks on the Patriots' radar because until these picks are made on Thursday, no one really knows for sure who's going to end up in New England. What would Jayden Daniels look like in a Pats uniform? Maybe Michael Penix? Damian Parson is the man to answer those questions, and he will when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, we've all been there. You want tickets to watch your favorite team play at Fenway, but you're not quite sure how to get the best seats at the best prices. Well, Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And it's not just Major League Baseball, folks. With their priority last-minute deals, Game Time can help you save up to 60% off by buying last minute for all kinds of sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, all coming to your area. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots, and we are honored and humbled to be joined by one of the best in the business when it comes to draft analysis, the Draft Network's own Damian Parson, also a colleague of mine here on Locked On, something of which I am also honored and humbled. And Dame, in the previous segment, we talked about Drake Maye and his fit in New England. We even threw a little J.J. McCarthy talk in there for those Patriots fans that are looking for another Michigan quarterback to come in and recreate some magic. But I think we're kind of at the point where most people outside of New England and maybe most people inside of New England would be shocked if the Patriots stayed at number 3 and didn't take either Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels. Depending on the reports that we're reading, Jayden is either disenfranchised with the Commanders and doesn't want to go there and may slip to the Pats at number 3, or a lot of that is smoke and mirrors, and he's ready to be chosen to go to the nation's capital. Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Washington takes Drake Maye, surprises a few people, and Jayden Daniels is sitting there. I've been saying throughout the draft cycle that the Patriots need to hand the keys to a quarterback who can not just succeed, but also thrive in Alex Van Pelt's offense. And in the previous segment, you talked about why Drake Maye can do that. But Alex Van Pelt loves to run an offense that's predicated on using the run to set up play action, allow the quarterback to navigate the middle, and then take deep shots down the field. Jayden Daniels is one of the most dynamic dual threat quarterbacks we've seen as a prospect in a number of years, maybe the best since Lamar Jackson. He's at his best with quarterback run design plays. So with some adjustments, he could end up being a good fit with Alex Van Pelt. If New England does choose to go with Jayden Daniels, either by default or by choice, what type of offense are the Patriots looking at in 2024 and beyond?
I think passing wise, this is a guy that can push the ball vertical. He throws one of the best deep balls in the 2024 draft class, especially when you turn on the tape, the slot fades. You know, a lot of people talking about, well, he had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Well, let's talk about that. 2022, Jayden Daniels was the quarterback that year. I think Malik Neighbors had barely 1,100 yards, and Brian Thomas Jr. did not have the type of season he had this year. Their growth and their ascension, no matter how talented they were tied to the growth and ascension of Jayden Daniels. The accuracy, the ball placement, the touch, his mechanics are so clean and crisp. Talking about even shoulders. He's not a heavy overstepper when he's stepping into throws. The one big thing for him was kind of caps where people view his potential as a passer is that he doesn't have the greatest arm in terms of the velocity between the middle of the field? Can he rip and zip a lot of those throws, right? Is his arm better than like a Bryce Young and Mac Jones? 100%, in my opinion, is greater than those guys, but his arm isn't on J.J. McCarthy's level, Caleb Williams, or Drake Maye's. But that running ability, right? And I remember talking with my guys, and he said, matter of fact, it was Keith. I was talking to Keith, and Keith said, because Keith was at LSU's pro day, and I think Keith told me he asked about J.J. McCarthy, Jayden Daniels 40 time, and like someone said that he would have been up there with like Brian Thomas Jr. So that's 4.34, 4.35, somewhere in there at the quarterback position, and that shows on tape. So not only can you create a run package for him, I would say you look at, just kind of pulling for what Greg Roman did early in Lamar Jackson's years, right? You got a run game. Ramondre Stevens is a very talented running back, right? You brought in Antonio Gibson. So you got a two-headed monster already right there in the backfield. That RPO game, that read option game, where Jayden's eyes are panned to that backside end. And if that backside end crashes, he takes it. And the way that Greg Roman used Lamar Jackson, it was attacking the edge time and time again, to where eventually defenses said, well, I got to keep that backside end stationary. What does that do? It takes one extra defender out of the run action on inside zones and power plays up the gut. So that allows his running backs to have a little less guys in the box. And that's what Jayden Daniels will be able to do as well. But also, he creates on his own, dropping back in the pocket, surveying the field. Sometimes I will say he has turned down clean throws, or like he sees a throw and he's not completely comfortable with it. But then it's like, do I have that get out of trouble free card? I do. I have that trump card that you have to prepare for. And this is a guy that truthfully, playing man-to-man coverage, even though you, as a defensive coordinator, you say, man, we look at their receivers right now heading into the draft, not, considering what they may add. We look at their receivers like, man, we can play man-to-man against these guys. We can play too high man-to-man coverage against these guys, 2-man under. Yeah, that sounds great in theory until you have to account for 11-on-11 football with Jayden Daniels. Because if he drops back and everybody's back, he looks upfield and all the defenders' numbers on the back of their jersey are looking back at him, he's getting out of that pocket, right? So he can't, same thing with Drake Maye, he can't create and throw on the move, right? He's got really quick twitch muscles and athleticism in the pocket to where he drops back. If there's a rusher coming as a play against Army, I think it was Army, where they had a rusher off the edge, he was able to sweep through it, step up in the pocket, then work outside and just throw a dime on the move to Brian Thomas Jr. right into his hands. I think he took it the rest of the way for a touchdown. But it's those type of plays out of the pocket as a passer. So he's accurate, has good ball placement, even between the numbers when he does throw it. There's another play, I think, to Brian Thomas Jr. He was throwing the in cut, and there's a safety driving down. Instead of throwing him and leading him, he threw it back to, on the back shoulder, stopped his momentum, allowed him to spin around and get yards after the catch. And that's the type of stuff that we saw with Tom Brady protecting his assets, right? TB12 was always great about throwing it low, knowing his guys can get it, throw it right there in the breadbasket, giving them a chance to catch and get down because he sees linebackers coming, safeties triggering down, and not allowing his guys to get killed in the middle of the field. Now, granted, the game's a little bit softer now. You can't just kill shot guys like you could back in TB12's early days, but still, being able to protect your receivers, he does a good job at it. The main thing with Jayden Daniels, protect himself. Even as dynamic of a runner he is, I always say he takes these like Looney Tune cartoon hits where it's just like, Jayden, just get down. Like, you should not be taking these like full on head on collisions, like train to train, but it's actually train to Prius and the train wins. Like, I don't want that for you, Jayden. Get out of bounds, slide, protect yourself. And I think when he does those things, he's going to be just fine. But this is a young man I think can come in. You can, again, push the ball down the field, run some, of course, the play action, the RPO game, slants, some in breakers and out breakers as well. He can attack all three levels of the field as well as a passer.
Yeah, without question. I mean, Daniels is electrifying when you watch what he can do on the field. You watch what he did at LSU, and you fall in love with what he can do with his legs on power, on counter, even on the draw plays. I mean, that's where he's at his best, and he's elusive. I mean, there's no question about it. He can definitely cause mismatches and really extend plays with his legs and create plays with his legs in a way that former Patriots quarterbacks have not been able to do in quite some time. So it would be a different method. It would be an electrifying method and an exciting method of offense for Patriots fans to watch. So in that vein, yeah, I think that there would be a lot of people that would be excited by what Jayden Daniels brings to the table. And I, for one, would say that it's not a consolation prize if Drake Maye's off the board and you need to go with Jayden. It might look a little bit different, but he's someone that you can hitch your wagon to and be a franchise quarterback for a number of years. In that vein, a lot of Patriots fans are wondering if there is a little more fire to the smoke right now of the Patriots potentially trading down. If they do that, a lot of people are saying it might be a trade down, then a trade back up to put themselves in position to take Washington's Michael Penix. Now, Penix had a pedestrian performance at the Senior Bowl, but really bounced back with great workouts, especially at the Combine, looked better, tested well, and most importantly, it looks like he's healthy. Those ACL issues that plagued him in Indiana seem to be behind him. The shoulder issue that he had last year in Washington seems to be behind him as well. I know there were questions about his accuracy, but if the Patriots do decide that they're going to shuffle the deck a little bit and maybe move down a little, move back up, and Penix is the guy that's available, he does fit well into an Alex Van Pelt offense. Again, he's a guy that thrives when you use the run to set up play action, take the deep shots down the field. Got a cannon of an arm. He can definitely do it. What do you think of Penix's potential fit in New England?
I think, like you said, with AVP's offense, I think he fits well, right? He throws a great touch down the field, whether it's deep down the field to the Roma Dunzes or on crossing routes to a Jalen McMillan, a Jalen Polk. He is accurate enough to give his guys opportunities to make plays after the catch. Like I said, the velocity to especially thread the needle in the middle of the field, tight window throws. He has a good bit of those on film. The main thing with Michael Penix is that you concerned is making sure that this offensive line is going to be stout for him. Even though he ran 4.5, 4.6, whatever, because the 4.46 was absolutely not correct. Whatever he ran at his pro day, he's still he's even though with the ACLs, he still is athletic. But it's more so for me, I'm not worried about him running so much. It's more so creating and then throwing on the move. He's not great throwing on the move, especially as a left-handed quarterback, thinking about getting pressured and flushing him to his right. That's, to his weak side. That's what you definitely see some of those issues kind of take shape, similar to a right-handed quarterback going left. But to me, I've seen quarterbacks who are right-handed move left, throw better going to their weak side than him moving to his right. So I think moving him off the spot, he to me is a prototypical pocket passer. Arm talent, accuracy, ball placement is there. Guy that's played a lot of football, so the IQ and intellect of coverages and reading coverages is there. He is going to get through his reads if you give him protection. And again, with the run game, their offense really found themselves when they started leaning on Dylan Johnson and giving him a play action, giving him the run action, put the ball in the belly of the running back, take it out, the RPO game as well. I think that's where, you think about, especially if it's a second round situation, right? If they were to trade down with Minnesota, use those first two picks, one on tackle, one on one of the receivers in that second tier after the big three, you feel really good about that, man. If you're a Patriot fan, and just be able to get some impact players at other positions, because like you said earlier, there are needs. I do think there a drop off from the top three in terms of Jayden, Drake, and Caleb to Penix. Yes, there is. I think Penix, for me, I think I said this on a recent pod that I was on, that Penix is the kind of quarterback, if you're ready, especially if you're ready to compete now, if your team's ready, built right now. If the San Francisco 49ers did not have a quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. is the type of quarterback that, in my opinion, will be able to get them to the playoffs just like Brock Purdy was able to. You know what I mean? And I think he's that type of quarterback. You wonder about the ceiling. Is it capped? Is it an older prospect? I think he has to also work on his mechanics. A lot of times I don't see him activate his core and his lower body into throws. And truthfully, I think that steals some of his power and velocity. I think he's got more in the tank that he can unleash on some of these throws. because he does have that kind of Phillip Rivers 3/4 throwing motion, that kind of quirky throwing motion and everything. And sometimes you see his upper body's leaning one way, his base is pointing in a different direction, and he's still throwing the ball. You want to see him similar to Drake Maye, get synchronized, get everything lined up in rhythm, loading that back foot and stepping up properly and well into the pocket. The Texas game was big for him. That was a game where a lot of people said, well, that was a CJ Stroud game. I didn't go that far because Texas defense wasn't Georgia's from the year before, but I do think that he will be a good fit in this offense, barring be able to get him in the second round and add some pieces to this offensive line and the receiver core.
Absolutely. Pats fans, we've talked quarterbacks in the top 3 on the board for your New England Patriots. But as we alluded to earlier in the pod, there are other needs. If the Patriots are serious about taking a quarterback in the first round, where does that leave them in round 2 and round 3? Do they go offensive line? Do they go receiver? Or are we missing a position that might help the Patriots contend sooner rather than later? We're going to wrap up our draft discussion with Damian Parson on that very subject when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Locked On listeners, sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I'm really feeling about something, and you might even be thinking about the same thing this week. With the NFL draft just days away, I think all of us Patriots fans are hoping that the Patriots put themselves back on the path to success. Does that mean taking the big chance and drafting a future franchise quarterback, or playing it safe and building a solid infrastructure? Life can present the same types of questions, and that's why therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Patriots fans, it may be the NFL offseason, but it's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. So listen up, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Put your Boston sports fandom to the test with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Pats fans, thank you for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots, spending part of your day, part of your draft week with the coverage here on Locked On Patriots. And today we are once again honored and humbled. I'm going to keep saying it because we are. We built a new wisdom and counsel meter this week specifically for this man, and he already broke it, and we're loving every minute of it. Damian Parson, my colleague here at Locked On, and of course, you know his great work from thedraftnetwork.com. Damien, you've given us a masterclass on quarterbacks and the scouting reports coming out on all 4 quarterbacks that the Patriots believe they have a realistic shot at getting for 2024. But beyond quarterback, quite a few of our everydayers here on Locked On Patriots have made the argument that perhaps offensive line or even receiver are greater needs, even greater needs than quarterback. Now, reports are surfacing on Tuesday morning that New England has yet to get, quote unquote, a serious offer to trade out of number 3. In fact, some of the reports out there are saying that the offers they've got so far are laughable. I don't know what that means. It sounds pretty bad, but you know what? We'll take it for what it's worth. If they don't move, they stay at number 3, they'll probably get their quarterback. But if they do that, where do you believe this team is going to look in subsequent rounds? Maybe round 2, round 3, maybe trading back into late round 1. What are their biggest needs? Is it offensive line? Is it wide receiver? Or is it a position maybe we haven't mentioned yet?
It's those two positions. Offensive line and wide receiver are the two biggest keys for me for the Patriots, right? Being able to pick, if you stick and pick at 3 at the third pick, right? You got the second round, you got pick 34, third round, you got pick 68, and then fourth round, you got pick 103. So you have 4 picks within the top 103 picks in the draft, which is good to have, good value there. I think second round, it depends. The pendulum swings depends on the talent at both positions, right? For tackle and receiver. If there's a legitimate starting left tackle that slips down the board, that falls to you, think about Oklahoma's Tyler Guyton or someone like that that's available. A guy that he made, I don't know if you start him right out the gate, but Yale's tackle Kieran Amagedeji, outstanding talent, 6'5", 300 plus pounds. I think he has 36-inch arms, long arm. He's athletic, he's strong, good footwork. He played at Yale. So of course, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. He's coming off a quad injury that kept him out of the Senior Bowl because he was supposed to go down to Mobile, where he probably would have made himself a lot of money to be able to prove himself amongst the talented group of tackles. But yeah, if you see a starting tackle in the second round, you absolutely run that card, right? And I know that the receiver position is still a big need, but this is one of the guys, I'm telling you, this is one of the deeper receiver classes that I've scouted in recent history. You're gonna find yourself a starter round 3, 4, probably even 5. A guy that and it's like walking into an ice cream parlor and having a choice of whatever flavor you want. If you need a slot receiver, you're going to find that. If you need a run after catch receiver, you're going to find that. If you need an X receiver, an explosive receiver, you can find it. A movement guy, you can find that as well. This is a loaded class at wide receiver. So for me, not that these are the two names that most people expect to fall to the top of the 33 and 34 where the Panthers and you guys are selecting are like Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, then Keon Coleman out of Florida State. From what I've heard, that both of those guys still do have first round grades from a lot of teams. We'll see what happens, especially when you have Kansas City that most likely needs a receiver. Regardless of what happens with Rashee Rice, they still needed a new receiver. Of course, you think about the Buffalo Bills. Will they stand pat and take a receiver or trade out? But there's multiple teams that could, go for a receiver in front of you. But if either one of those guys fell down the board, I probably would just go ahead and pick those guys immediately. Right? Get that bona fide number 1 caliber receiver that, that guy that can dominate the target share. Right? That you're okay. I'm gonna feed this young man the football, no matter who's the quarterback, and especially if you're able to get Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels, getting those two guys who can then attack the vertical plane with their speed, especially Xavier Legette being at 4.39, but then also Keon Coleman plays faster than his 4.61, but the ball skills at 6'3", 215, 220, the ball skills at the catch point, the back shoulder fades, the slants and in cuts. Is he more of a possession style receiver? Yes, but he's also very nifty and elusive because he's a punt returner and kick returner. Both of these guys, actually. So you got two big body guys who can make guys miss in open field because they're so used to working in confined spaces. So I think just depends on what's available at the top of the second round in terms of, all right, let's look at our draft board. Who's available? All right. So Xavier Legette's available, Keon Coleman's available, Kieran Amagedeji's available, Tyler Guyton's available. Whichever prospect at whichever position is highest on the Patriots board, that's the position that they have to go with because they know that, okay, we're getting the immediate, we view this guy as a day one starter. He's going to come in and be an impact player, whether that's a tackle or a receiver. And I think that third and fourth round, truthfully, that you might look at, if you go tackle second round, you might want to double dip at receiver. In this class, you might double dip at receiver in the third and fourth round and get yourself some more athleticism, some more versatility, and movement ability in terms of alignments.
Absolutely. And, bottom line, folks, like we've been saying right along here on Locked On Patriots, it really comes down to whether or not you can see Chuck Okorafor being your starting left tackle when the Patriots come out of the gate in game 1 of the 2024 season, or are you comfortable having someone like a Tyquan Thornton or playing a little out of position, a Kendrick Bourne being your number 1 wide receiver? Obviously, Thornton's got the speed to be someone that can beat guys down the field, but can he put it all together? We haven't seen it yet. There's a lot of talent on both of those positions. And Damien, you've outlined that talent very, very well, my friend. A tip of the cap for mentioning Xavier Legette, who I actually mocked to the Patriots by trading back into the first round to get him because I was afraid I was going to lose him running the mock draft board. I caught some heat for that. But bottom line, I think that's the type of talent that you definitely look at and say we can't leave that on the board. But what can I say? I appreciate all of your wisdom and counsel today and taking the time out of your busy schedule on draft week, especially to drop by here, Locked On Patriots. I think you've given so much for Patriots fans to think about between now and Thursday. Before I let you go, please let everyone know where they can reach out to you, interact with you, and where we can find the great work of Damian Parson, both in front of the camera and on paper prior to the draft.
Absolutely. On Twitter or /X, you can find me at DP_NFL. Talk to me. I talk to everyone that mentions me on there. Of course, all of my scouting reports over at the Draft Network. You can go to see me on camera on the Draft Network's YouTube channel. We did some great content. We had a series called The Draft Room. We went over just kind of different scenarios for different teams. Talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. Is he the best receiver prospect ever? Different things like that. Just some good conversational pieces. Also, the quarterback room where we talked about Drake Maye, Jayden Daniels, and everything. So I had a really great time with that. And of course, 5 days a week, Locked On NFL Draft Podcast with me and my co-host, my colleague from the Draft Network as well, Coach K, Keith Sanchez. Check us out there 5 days a week. Apple Podcast, Spotify. Definitely go and tap in with us.
Absolutely, folks. And anytime Damien puts pen to paper or he puts voice to microphone or face to camera, it is always appointment viewing, appointment listening. You'll be entertained. You'll be, most importantly, well educated heading into the draft. He and Coach K do an amazing job on the Locked On NFL podcast. Of course, I'm a little biased to the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, but no, the Draft Network, believe me, is phenomenal. And this man's content is second to none. And I thank you for dropping by here today. And folks, we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us here on Locked On Patriots. On behalf of Damian Parson, I'm Mike Debate, reminding you all to stay safe and to stay well and to be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow for Draft Day Eve here on Locked On Patriots.